Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is the Footy Fantasy Podcast coming to you live on this Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We are usually live every Sunday, and we just talk about what's happening in the football world during the week. And it's been a weekend of exciting football. Well, not so exciting for some of us, but I have our very good friend, our resident Newcastle expert, man like Raji. What's going on, bro? You good?
Hey, I'm good, man. I think that I'm making a name for myself on the channel now. Everybody has an opinion about Newcastle. So creating antagonizing environments for the most part. But
And
I'm
you know
good,
what?
generally.
And you know what? Look, I mean, you should big yourself up, and
Of course,
because
I should.
yeah, like I mean, I live for banter. I
Mm.
live for the shade. Whether being thrown in the shade or me throwing the shade, I live for the shade. So
I mean, that's what makes it fun, right? I think that the fact that you can't remove the passion from the game. If you remove
yeah.
the passion for the game, we all become like Arsenal fans. Um, all right, all right.
Bro, 2 minutes in, this man is already throwing shade, bro. Nah.
Uh,
You know what's crazy? I was hanging out with some guys yesterday, and one of them was an Arsenal fan, and I'm like, bruh, I cannot wait for you to collect on Monday because
mm,
United, we got our rear end handed to us yesterday.
mhm.
Today, Chelsea got that work, and hopefully tomorrow Arsenal, gets theirs. But
Uh, I'm not gonna hold my breath out for Arsenal. I'm gonna say this about Arsenal: they're a good team.
oh yeah,
They're a good team, and I think you can't say the same for Chelsea. It's like I was watching the game today.
yeah,
Um, all through summer, everybody was talking about how Chelsea was coming back to reclaim their throne. All the pundits were coming out and
Pochettino.
saying Chelsea is going to be in the top four, Newcastle is going to drop to sixth or seventh. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons that prompted me to get on a tirade and tell you that,
Mhm.
hey, you were going to do well this season. We're going to be in the top four, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
I think it's like we have teams are buying talent, but they're not building teams. And I think that's the problem with Chelsea and a couple more. It's like you have to build a team too.
yeah,
Lack of communication on the pitch. There was no finishing, no communication to get the ball into the box. It was just strong midfield, and all of that was based on talent alone. Like you get the ball, you can hold the ball. That's
yeah,
good. But what can you do after the ball gets short? But
exactly.
it's exciting. We're not here to talk about Chelsea today, so
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
just we'll save it for another day,
yeah.
another podcast that I won't be on. But
But in the meantime, bro, keep doing God's work. Keep doing
oh, of
God's work
course.
on the group, and some of us are just there to laugh.
We'll survive. I am excited for the season. Despite the loss yesterday, I'm still excited for the season. Um, but I guess we'll talk about it in time. But I'll let you
Yeah, yeah.
take over the show, and we can talk about what you need, what's on the schedule.
Of course, of course. So guys, before we dive into our topics, check us out on YouTube. We're at Footy Fantasy on YouTube. On Twitter, we are at Footy AD Fantasy, and on Instagram, we are at Fantasy Footy. So check out the videos we have on those platforms. We post match reactions after almost every game that catches a lot of interest. We do these shows every Sunday, and sometimes we do some special episodes whenever they're like important international tournaments going on. So check us out on the platforms, and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And on this show, you will have the opportunity to call in, share your opinion on the topics we're going to discuss. The first topic we're going to talk about is the Manchester City Newcastle game that happened yesterday. And, we obviously have Raji here to talk about that. And also Newcastle's expectations for the season. Second topic, we have to talk about, the Mason Greenwood situation at Manchester United. We saw that statement released by the United communications department during the week. And we're also going to talk about the shock results. Well, maybe not so shocking. During the Spurs Manchester United game yesterday, and then we'll just talk about general kudos and donkeys of the week. So, without further ado, Raji, I watched. So, of course, your game happened after the Manchester United game yesterday, and of course we lost. So, I just had to take a nap. So I didn't watch. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. After I finished, that game ended. I sent my match reaction to Ayo, and I went and took a nap. So watched the first half of your game, but I didn't see the second half. What did you think of the game? Were you impressed at the very least by your team's performance?
So we've gone to the Etihad 18 times now. Mm-hmm. And in that 18 games, 19 times, I guess including yesterday's game. In that 19 games, we've won 0. We've drawn 2, and we've lost 17. Okay. So you look at the squad we have right now. And one of the impressive things we've had is we have a very strong midfield.
Yes.
You have a very attacking forward.
Yeah.
And we have a very strong defense. And we go into that game with a level of expectation based on the realities that currently exist, that we would be able to at least give Manchester City a game. Mm-hmm. But what you fail to realize is the level of quality in that team is just exceptional.
Yeah.
One of the things that Newcastle has been able to benefit from, especially during the Aston Villa game, was playing against the press. So Newcastle would press very high, attack the players, make them make mistakes, take advantage of the mistakes, and counterattack and try to score. That was how we generally did. And when you watch that Manchester City game, it was just like we were the schoolboy team at Manchester City who was just playing around the press. There was always somebody at every single point. They would pass back to the keeper. The Newcastle attack would just run forward, and somebody in midfield will run forward, get the ball, and then just the whole attack is displaced, and the Newcastle defense is just open for them to take. It was a masterclass of. They made us look like schoolboys, man. And it's one of those situations where you're like, all right, I get it. This team is something else. But it's like, how many of these lessons can you really learn? I think we'll get to a point where there's no other option. This is not the same way they played us last season. Last season, it was 2-0. It was a totally different tactical game. They beat us there 2-0. It was 3-3 at St. James Park. But this was a totally different game style, totally different way they played. And give kudos to Manchester City. It's very difficult to find teams that are able to control the game, even if they're being pressed, and just play around the press.
Yeah.
A few teams can do it. And I think that's where Newcastle is going to struggle during the Champions League. Teams that have elite players, that have elite teams, are not going to be fazed by you just running towards them and trying to get the ball. So, it's tempered my expectations for the season a little. I still think we'll be in the top 4. I still think we'll finish third, or at least we'll finish third. I think that we're going to be better this season. There's some games that we lost last season that we're going to win. Okay. And we've increased the depth of the squad significantly. That I feel like there are some games that we suffered because of fatigue, because of rotation. We're not going to have the same level of issues. So I think that Newcastle is going to finish comfortably in the top 4, despite all the predictions. despite everybody saying like Champions League is going to make us finish seventh or sixth or fifth, Newcastle is going to be in the top four. And I don't know if you know this yet, but one of the problems Newcastle had was the level of funding this season. Castor, this is the first time ever they've made well, all their jerseys have not been great, but this season they hit it out the park with the nice jerseys.
Yeah.
But the problem is nobody can buy them. I had to buy this from England. I had to get it transported. You can't buy it anywhere in America.
How? Why?
The level of
Why is that?
It's just the logistical distribution is just very small.
Okay.
Very small. So, one of the things that leaked during this new Newcastle, I don't know if you are following this We Are Newcastle show on Amazon. It plays in England. It's not in America yet, but there's a series called We Are Newcastle that talks about Newcastle and some of the ways they're trying to get funding and beat the Premier League at the game. One of the things that they're going to announce at the end of the fourth episode is a new deal with Adidas, and that could increase our revenue from a measly 70, 80 million to, Manchester United signed a $900 million deal with Adidas. If we can get half of that, all of a sudden, all our financial woes go away, and then we can sign some really, really good players that could match the likes of Manchester City. So all eyes are pointing towards next season. I think we're going to do very well this season. We're going to finish in the top four. And I think we're going to go past the group stage in the Champions League. Okay. But honestly, if we could win a trophy, I would leave the trophy. I would leave the conversation of top four behind and go with the trophy.
If you want to,
if you want a trophy, FA Cup, any of those leagues, we'll go for that. But, we've won a trophy in the last, of course, 10 years. Just to be clear, we won the championship trophy. That counts for something. But, we're good. I think that Newcastle is going to be better than a lot of people think they are. I think Newcastle is going to be better. And I think a lot of teams that overplayed last season, they're going to suffer the consequences this season. So I think that Newcastle can top some players, some teams.
Let me take I have a few follow-up questions for you, Raji. Let me take a few comments though. Okay. We already have Henry Collin, but we're gonna add him. We're gonna add him in a bit. Henry says, "Hello, we'll miss you, Kwame. Welcome back from going ham yesterday. Even Megan, Cardi B, and Larry Harvey caught flag. Don't get me started about yesterday, man. I just recovered from that. I don't want to go back in." Io says on Friday, Raji was talking with so much chest. Man was talking with chest. We're here for it.
Yeah, I mean, the truth about let me tell you this: if you can't big up your team, you can't big up your team.
Fact.
I'm seriously, since it's been 20 years since we're in the Champions League, man. All this time, true. All these people have been saying nonsense about Newcastle. When we got relegated, it was just the jokes. I even left the group at some point because I was like, man, it's too much drama. I got invited back, and I think some people have criticized me for coming back and becoming the noisemaker, which is fine. I think I get the point. But if you can't big up your team, if you can't say with your chest that Newcastle is a good team, and just be clear, these predictions that I'm having, I'm being conservative, right? If Newcastle blows all the other teams out of the water and they only lose to Manchester City, what does that say? Yeah. They can still win the trophy, right? So I'm fine with that.
Harry says, thanks, I definitely calling the show. Yeah. Linger goes, although Kwame, why did Paris Hilton have to get straight? It's not her fault. Yeah, go mouth hard. Nah, Linger, you better call it. Anyway, yes, okay. So, Raji, my question to you is this: do you think? So you say you don't think Champions League will affect how well you guys do this season in the league that much? Would you say that if you were not participating in the Champions League, you would be more confident, or you would put your team higher in the league this season?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you this. This not this conversation about Champions League. The thing that Manchester City played a Super Cup.
Yeah.
On Wednesday,
Yeah.
still came back and still played Newcastle off the park. It's not whether there's a Champions League game that would determine whether your team does well. It's the mindset within the team. And the truth about it is, a lot of teams that haven't qualified that are qualified for Europe had never qualified for Europe prior. What do you call it? Brighton. Nobody's saying Brighton is going to do worse because they have been in the Europa League.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying that West Ham is going to do worse because they the one. It's always Newcastle. Nobody's saying Manchester City is going to do worse because they're in Champions League. Everybody just agrees that Manchester City is going to be fine. Everybody agrees that Manchester United is going to be fine. Despite the fact that Manchester United doesn't have a better team than Newcastle. Everybody agrees that Arsenal is fine. But then when it comes to Newcastle, oh man, they're going to suffer. There's a people look at Newcastle with side eyes.
And
it's
like, but do you so you guys have added Tonali in your midfield. You have Harvey Barnes on the left, as a replacement for Maximin, and what's that other guy got on the left? Anthony Gordon from Everton last year. What other positions did you guys strengthen in? Maybe I missed a few other positions. I mean, there was Livramento from Southampton, right?
There's Southampton, and we just got Lewis Hall from Chelsea.
That is true.
So
that's
right. So we also have a bunch of young players that are in true. Elliot Anderson is going to play a lot this season.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a lot of him, but during the preseason, I watched the game in Brighton, and he was a spark. He was the one who scored our 2 goals to give us the victory over Brighton. But there's always Louis Smiley, who I think he's 17 years old. He's not going to start a lot of games for sure. But I think that in games like the Carling Cup, the FA Cup, you're going to see him participate. One of the things that you'll be surprised by when you see him play, this Louis Smiley kid, is that he already feels like he belongs there. So much so that, the manager is saying they don't want to sell him. We also bought Yakubu Minte, a right winger, and we traded him straight to Ajax for the loan. And we got one more player from Australia. So we bought a couple of people. Some of them are for the future. We've bought quite a few people for the future, quite a few people for the current. And I think that the philosophy is to buy the players young before they become superstars, and then train them. So that's what we're planning.
Okay, we have Henry in the stream. Henry, you there?
Yes, guys, I'm here.
Hey, what's going on, brother? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate you for calling in. We're talking about, of course, the Newcastle game yesterday. Spurs, Manchester United. You can talk about the Mason Greenwood stuff, or your team, because you guys have not played, right? You're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, I think we're playing tomorrow or something.
Okay.
All right. I think the first one I just want to make a quick comment about is I don't know why people are thinking Newcastle are actually not going to do good. I don't know if you remember my prediction at the beginning of the season. I actually pegged them to also make the top 4, anywhere from maybe 3rd or 4th. Man U is falling my hand right now because I thought Man U was.
Because remember also, Henry, this year 5th place goes to Champions League.
Yes, I know, because they made that rule. But I don't know. I mean, there are 2 teams that I actually feel like can break into that top 4, now top 5. And I think it's actually, Newcastle again and Brighton. Brighton won just because of the system they play, and also the players. Like you guys, I'm so shocked how, last year they've shown it to us that they have the blueprints, to actually excel in the Premier League.
Their recruitment is elite.
Sorry?
Their recruitment is just elite.
See, apart from even the recruitment, it's the system, bro. is the system and how interchangeable the players they get, which is the recruitment.
Yeah.
Like these guys are able to play multiple roles and still put in work.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are still the two teams. I Newcastle, for me, I don't know. Even after yesterday's game, I'm still not changing my prediction. I still expect them to make top 4.
Okay.
And there's still some players they have. Like they have a decent bench, even compared to some players. And then some of those players they have on the bench are reasonably young. They have a lot of upside, right? So they haven't even. A lot of them are not playing their peak football yet, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I still expect more from them.
And I should point also that some of the players that we have were some of the players on the bench. So some players we have on the bench were some of the players that were crucial for us making it to the Champions League this season.
That is
down
true.
the stretch.
So that shows the level of quality they've improved this season.
Yeah,
I agree, and I still have them ranked high in my own opinion. The other thing I want to mention is just I'm starting to feel this Greenwood issue is actually starting to affect Man U. I feel like this is something that they should have resolved from the jump. Mm-hmm. I feel like now there's almost like a carryover now effect that is not affecting the team as a whole. Mm-hmm. Because pre-season, these guys were on fire. It's almost like I'm seeing a mirror image of the team. Not a mirror image, but like there's a drop in form or a drop in intensity from the team that I saw during the preseason. And everybody played preseason, right? So technically, you should actually be seeing an uptick, right? An improvement in form.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a drop off, and I don't know why. That midfield, they need to figure it out, because if they don't figure it out, my prediction of top 4 for them, I don't know, because because this season I actually feel this season is going to be a very difficult season, even for Man City. Like, look at yesterday's game against Newcastle. You can tell, even though you can tell certain teams will still be scared of Man City, but some of them are now playing like, well, it's City, we'll do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're all human beings, right? Even though there's a difference in class, but you can see they're going to play a team like Brighton. They're going to play a team like Newcastle. They're going to play other,
Aston Villa.
Aston Villa. They're going to play Arsenal. They're going to play Spurs. Even Spurs that we thought they were going to drop. Now they're doing things that were like,
yeah.
The only other thing too is Chelsea. Chelsea's being suspects. You can't buy 115 million player and be putting him on the bench. But other than that, thanks for having me on, guys. I always look forward to being a part of it.
Appreciate it, Henry. Of course. Thank you for being a regular guest here as well. And may you lose tomorrow. Thank you.
Let me quickly say something about the thing you've said, Henry. And I want to highlight one particular point you made. It's the system of Brighton that works. Because we've seen situations where those players are moved out of Brighton and they go down. Yeah. I saw that Caicedo game today, and you could see that the system that Chelsea has doesn't quite fit. I mean, it's just one game, right? We're going to see him play, but he's not going to be the first person who left Brighton, and all of a sudden we notice that they're not doing as well anymore.
Cucurella,
exactly. Yeah. It's like the system works for Brighton, but now Chelsea is trying to get rid of him. Yeah. So I mean, let's see what happens. But it was a good point you made.
Yeah, no problem, guys. All right, take care.
Thank you, Henry. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Ayo and Linga are also in the background. We're going to bring guys in very shortly. Let me just read a few comments. Prince AY is going ham in the chat, bro. This man got all the verbal. Man talking about Hugo Sofia. He said he's talking to Hugo Sofia. Jokes aside, there's no data to suggest that you'll be fine. So based on that alone, everyone is inclined to think you will suffer. Then he goes ahead and says,
"But what is the data that says that Arsenal will be fine too?" Well, the only data we have is the table. So Prince AY is saying nonsense as usual. He's always antagonistic to Newcastle. Leave him alone.
Prince, by the way, for those who know, Prince AY and Raju, they're like best friends on the big group.
Yeah, we are.
And he goes, you've not been in Europe in a minute, so would affect things for a minute. You start fishing in European places from season to season, and the narrative will change. Then he goes ahead and says, it's the same way everyone is saying Arsenal cannot win the league. That's because we have a record of capitulating in moments that matter, so you can understand why everyone is saying we can't do bits. Then
I think it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Arsenal capitulates. You know,
that's what they do. Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
When they do better, I mean, he's going to send a few messages. So let's see what he says after this. Go on.
I think that's the last of his message. Let me just read Ayo's message. City will drop points in the start and then win 89 games, and everyone will be shocked. Yeah, that City will win the league again. I am taking bets. If anyone was Ayo is addicted to betting. I think Ayo should be. I think Ayo should be Ivan Toney's probation officer. Except for Ben White and Trossard, system matters. Prince, say why? Okay, Ayo, what's going on, brother? You all right?
I'm good, man. Glad to be here. You know.
By the way, Prince, why? Call in and chat all these things you're chatting on video.
When he comes, he becomes a gentleman.
Ayo, what's going on, bro? You good?
That's good. You can see my title. Empathy is key.
Empathy for whom, though?
Empathy is key. No, I think we're going to the next topic. No, I'm not talking Newcastle. I don't care what it is. Let's go.
Okay. Raji, is there anything else you wanted to say about Newcastle?
Well, it would have been nice to hear what AY wanted to say, but
okay. Let me give you one liner. Newcastle are a good team, and I'm going to say exactly what I told Raji in the chat on Friday when we chatted. Newcastle are a good team. However, I'm not sold on Tonali.
Really?
I'm not sold on Tonali. I think
it's fine.
I think it's going to be okay, and that's going to be their downfall later down the stretch. I think Newcastle are going to suffer more injuries this season, especially barriers. They're playing too much, and that's where Newcastle they'll stumble. They'll be good. They'll have a lot of draws. They'll be very hard to beat, but they don't have enough firepower. They are going to be too dependent on Isak, which is an extremely good player, by the way. I think he's going to blow up. I told everybody, FPL advice, get Isak in your team. I think he's going to blow up this season. But the problem about Newcastle is they're going to have to struggle with going to Europe and everything. I think they'll come like 5th or 6th. So they might still make UCL, but I don't think they'll make it top 4. That's my one.
So you think that we're no different than Manchester City, who depends on Haaland?
No. Manchester is different. The quality that they have in their squad, like the quality of players they have from back to front, their first 11, right, is the level of consistency they can get over a 38-game season is way higher than Newcastle. Way higher.
Let's see. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think that some of the people that are sitting on the bench right now at Newcastle were the ones that got us into the top 4. I think that they've improved a lot of the players in many areas, and they've got backup, especially in for the right back, the left back, and the defense in general. So let's see. I think it's good to hear your bets. Not bets, your predictions.
Yeah.
But let's go on to the next topic.
Ayo, if you don't mind, I want Linger has to run, but she wanted to share her opinion on the Mason Greenwood issue. So if you don't mind, just let her share her opinion. That way she can.
Y'all are so trash. Your team is terrible.
Hey, you were supposed to talk about Mason Greenwood. You are supposed to talk about Mason Greenwood. Not come here and shade my team, okay? Talk about
Bring me back. Okay.
This woman.
No, that's one. I just wanted to share a few thoughts about the Mason Greenwood thing. And some of them are specifically about him and United, and some of them are a little more general based on what I've seen in the group and in the conversation in the group. And with Greenwood, you guys can probably share more about your personal opinions about whether or not he should be brought back to the team because it's your team. But I'd say that one thing that's been a little concerning to me, one is, like I posted about in the group, Manchester United, whoever it was leaking it or getting it out that they're waiting for the women's team to come back from the World Cup to ask their opinion and just putting a target on them. Women already get, as a woman who's a football fan, there's a lot of abuse and you see it everywhere. And that really, I don't know, the way the board has handled this whole thing is a disaster. Take him back or not, but all of this meandering is not helpful. But I'd also say that there've been so many arguments in the group about well, he wasn't found guilty and she got back with him. And I think that it just feels like there's a little bit of a misunderstanding about how domestic abuse and how rape cases and stuff can be handled in England. And I don't know about Mason Greenwood's situation right now with his wife. I don't know. I'm not casting any aspersions. I'm not saying anything. But what I am saying is if you look at just the law so few rape cases or abuse cases are actually prosecuted. It's like less than 10%. There's actually a huge study about this that criticized the Met Police, and they're like, they're not actually prosecuting these. They're not supporting women. They're not doing all of these things. And in the group, it feels like sometimes we take like the fact that he wasn't convicted as a sign of innocence, but especially in a group that has so many like Black people and people of color, like we also see the system perpetuating racism and not being correct. So assuming sometimes that the law is correct for some things and not for others is just a little confusing to me. And again, like I said, this is a little bit less about him and his actual case. Though with his case, we have to admit, we've heard it, we've seen it, we know what actually happened more than we usually do in these cases. If she took him back, fine. If she dropped charges, fine. But like acting like there not being legal ramifications, meaning everything is fine, is just not correct because of how the law works in the United States as well. But in England, it's really not helpful to women and people who have been raped or assaulted or anything like that. It's like famously terrible. So I just want to make the point that like we can't just assume because some of these people like, or even like with Mender, with all these different cases, like we can't assume that things being dropped means that nothing happened. We just can't immediately think that. And I feel like thinking that it just does a disservice to a lot of the women who go through these things in this situation. And like I said, let's less about Greenwood. I don't think he should come back to Manchester United, whether he does or not. I wish him the best. I hope he gets a lot of help. He and his partner need a lot of support right now. I hope they're getting it. But we can't assume that everything is fine because that's just not how it works.
That's not how it works. Right.
I think I really appreciate your feedback on this, and I think that it definitely opens my eyes on a number of things. I'm not gonna lie, I've been following the issue, and I would say that in some ways I was leaning towards like, oh well, if he's not convicted of the issue, then maybe he should come back. But I think that your explanation does a good job of highlighting the fact that there is a significant issue with the amount of convictions, and there is a fundamental systematic issue. Now, my question to you is his football career over? Because if he's not coming back to Manchester United, then who are you going to push him on? So, like, definitely he's talented, right? He's a good player. Would you be fine with him playing for maybe Manchester City, or in fact, let's even take it to the championship level? The championship level. The championship level, maybe Division 1. What are you trying to say, that because of this situation, that he doesn't have a football career any longer?
Yeah, I appreciate your appreciation, and two, I guess now we can get into my own personal feelings, which is like, I don't. hey, don't start.
I feel like Linga works around with that face. Every single place she goes, she has that thing with her.
You guys never even comment on like, do you see my room?
When I went to the Bay Area, she had it. She had like a whole club statue walking around in the Bay Area.
I block it from my memory. I don't see anything.
So my personal opinion about this, personally about Mason Greenwood specifically, is complicated because I also believe that people should be able to move past their worst mistakes and should get a chance to prove themselves and stuff. I think his career should be over at Manchester United because isn't it just too tarnished and too broken? But I don't think he should never play football again or never have success in his life or anything like that. Like, I think we're very quick to do that as a society, and I don't agree with it. And it feels complicated to me, like I said, because you know, I only listened to like a minute of this video, but even just reading the transcripts of it, it's really horrible. Like, it's really hard to hear. So I don't think he should come back to United. I think the whole thing is too corroded at this point. And like, especially for a club that's so big, like if it was something like with like a Liverpool player or something, I wouldn't want us to then take that energy and that risk and all of that sort of stuff. But I do genuinely, like, I hope he continues to play football. I don't know if I see it being in the Prem or in one of the bigger teams, but like, I think he should get another chance, but that's not the same as like erasing what happened or erasing the voice of like his partner, if that makes sense.
Okay. maybe I should jump in.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Appreciate
course.
it, man. If you got to run, feel free to jump off. Go ahead.
I have about five more minutes. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, so
Okay,
to buttress Linger's points, I'm about the stats, right? So 1.7 million women, domestic abuse victims last year in the UK, charges in just 1.9%. Less than 2%.
Bro, that's crazy.
69 rape cases in 2022. More other things about that you're kind of talking about domestic abuse. It takes 7 attempts on average before a woman finally leaves an abusive partner, right? So that's just like facts from like Home Office in UK. So the reason you can see my title called "Empathy is Key" is that I would encourage everyone on this issue, right, to let's handle with care. Especially when you don't know who on the other end is receiving this message. And I'll talk about this from 3 perspectives from United. From a humanity standpoint, this is just my personal opinion. This is not Fruity Fantasy opinion, my personal opinion. I feel like following Linger's path is very critical regarding we have to think of the women who work in United, the fans, the female fans, female team, all of that, and understand that the messaging is extremely important. It's extremely important because you cannot be Manchester United with over 1 billion supporters, viewers, and not understand the messaging and say, okay, Greenwood can come back, right? Essentially because something I'll talk about later. It's not the reasons you're doing it, it's for different reasons other than humanity, right? That's number one. We have to think of the woman involved and understand like domestic abuse and how it works. Even her staying does not mean that, everything's fine, Rehabilitation, to answer, I think Raji talked about it. In my opinion, right, when you look at the cases, he was not even charged, and Okakameka going to legal part. He wasn't even charged, right? And I understand from a legal point, he cannot admit to doing it, right? Because that's literally him getting arrested and going if he does that. So, but from the rehabilitation point of view, if everything's going to be very private, right? Let's assume that he admitted in private, to private people. Then the consequences should be that, okay, if you're not with something enter the public domain, my personal opinion, if you have, in private, you have been rehabilitated, then it should be taken away from the public to the same public domain as a Manchester United worker and player. He should be taken away from that public domain. That's just my personal opinion. Now, from the club's point, second part, the duty of care that they claim. They put out a statement saying there's a duty of care to Greenwood. And
while you're talking, I'm just gonna share the statement just so we can, because I want to show that as well.
Okay, perfect,
yeah.
Exactly.
So so you're talking about the duty of care,
correct? So
actually, let's start the statement. So it says, following the dropping of all charges against Mason Greenwood in February, Manchester United has conducted a thorough investigation into the allegations made against him. This has drawn an extensive evidence and context not in the public domain, and we have heard from numerous people with direct involvement and knowledge of the case. Throughout this process, the welfare and the perspective of the alleged victim has been central to the club's inquiries, and we respect her right to lifelong anonymity. We also have responsibilities to Mason as an employee, as a young person who has been with the club since the age of 7, and as a new father with a partner. So I'm just gonna end there, but because everything else was just like regular corporate stuff.
Correct. So and this is where that's very interesting, right? And the hypocrisy there. Duty of care to Mason, but United cut people off like very quickly. A lot of players, right? Why was duty of care not applied at that point, right? What's his name? What's the boy? Twansdebe got released. Yep. Like clubs, not just United, clubs release players all the time.
Even the guy Ravel Morrison.
Correct. Clubs release players all the time. Whether it's to injuries, they don't pan out. It's a thing. They don't think about duty of care at that point in time, right? The only reason they are using that is because Mason has 75K contract. He has 3 years left. They don't want to pay that money. It's an asset.
Yeah.
And possibly, because the manager has identified that he's a good striker, he's a clinical player, he could be an asset to a team that is struggling with scoring goals, right?
Yeah.
And that goes into my last point, and this is Erik ten Hag. First of all, this is a PR nightmare, like Linga said. I don't know why United want to get near this PR nightmare. It doesn't make any sense, right? That's number one. Number two, Ten Hag has precedence of this. He does. And personal opinion, again, people might not care about things. This is just my personal opinion. It's not Footy Fantasy opinion. Ten Hag, when he was working at Ajax, Overmars was sending nude pictures to like female staff, got kicked out of it. Ten Hag publicly supported Overmars, even after the decision had been made by Ajax, and he got like a warning. You know, he has precedence of this. Mm-hmm. So the last part of it is Ten Hag has been the one making one of the things I think that's gone well for Ten Hag more than anything tactical has been his man management. I think, especially last year, especially at the point when Ronaldo was about to like make the club tilt a different direction. It was the man management, and he made big calls during that time, big calls that steered us in the right direction. One thing I always say every time in football is, and I think almost all of us will agree, vibes matter in football. I'm pretty sure there are a couple of people in that dressing room or have, wives, whatever, that probably don't agree with that decision. I do not understand why bringing him back is a smart decision. I personally don't understand it. Just because the Greenwood we know of 2 years ago is probably not, he's not played football for 2 years. So yeah, for me, that's my final thought on Greenwood. If you want to go ahead.
I'm going to ask you one question real quick. Last week I posted that Erik ten Hag is a pompous man. Would you agree with that statement?
I feel like every manager is pompous. I saw that and I laughed. I saw in every manager is pompous. So everyone.
Klopp is the worst, man.
All of them. Every manager is pompous.
I'm gonna say I respect a lot of the things you've said. And I also I think that one of the reasons is not just the money. I don't think it's the money that is stopping them from getting rid of him. It's the talent. This guy is a talented kid, and I think that if they let him go, it just becomes somebody else's stuff they can use against them. So I think that that's where their issue is. They're trying to find a way to try to make this work. But I think that, in light of all the conversations you've had, especially given the fact that you have to take into consideration the families, the wives, the people, the Manchester United women, I don't think it's a good idea to put them on the spot like that. Maybe it's best to just leave this PR nightmare behind. You can find somewhere else. You can find someone else to take that role. Football is, there's a lot of talented folks out there undiscovered. Some people who are playing better than the leagues where they're in, and I think they can find somebody else to take it. But it's a tricky subject too.
The last thing I want to add, and this is just my personal opinion again, I always have to caveat that I think Richard Arnold should resign. That's my personal opinion. I think he has mishandled this terribly. This has been terrible, in my opinion. For a club as big as Man United, like who authorized this? Who was the PR person that looked at the authority?
Seriously,
I personally think he should resign. That's my personal opinion.
I think so. I'm just the way United has handled this has been nothing short of a disaster, and I think to address the people that want Mason Greenwood back, of course, for a lot of them it's football reasons. We need goals and stuff. I want to make it clear: this boy has not kicked the ball in 2 years. He's not going to be the same player. And even if Mason Greenwood comes back and gives us the Greenwood we knew before he went away, what difference does that make at Manchester United? Does that mean Manchester United is going to win the league? No. Does this mean we're winning the Champions League? No. So again, the marginal benefit we get is not worth it. 2, Manchester United clearly have the way they crafted that statement just makes me believe that they are trying their best to find every single PR way to bring this boy back. Starting from the beginning of that statement, it says, following the dropping of all charges against Mason Greenwood, there were no charges dropped because there were no charges filed.
Yep.
Right. And there were no charges filed because it was impossible to get evidence. That is what people have to understand. When there is some kind of impediment, right, whether, social or otherwise, for the investigators to get evidence, they cannot move forward. So now that's a completely different situation from one where they were able to get evidence, they were able to file charges, said evidence went through the court system, scrutinized through the eyes of the law. You know, you had members of the jury look at the evidence, you had judges look at the evidence, you had investigators, police officers look at the evidence, and then you return a verdict of not guilty. Then that's a different situation. But in this case, we never even got a chance to do that. That never happened. So I think the big question that we need to ask is, okay, well, why was the government not able to actually get evidence that they thought was sufficient to, you know, sustain a conviction? Well, whatever that reason is, we don't know. You know, that's where you know, their private life comes in. I mean, it's just going to look really, really bad. Every defense attorney prays for a sexual assault case like that, where the alleged victim is pregnant with the, you know, accused child. You know, it's just a really, really bad look. So
I want to clarify something real quick. The CPS announced that he was charged with attempted rape, assault, and controlling and coercive behavior. So he was charged, but he couldn't find enough of evidence to. So I think that we should clarify that.
Oh yeah.
Well, don't have the wrong impression.
That is true. So I think the system in the UK is So they. In the US, you know, a grand jury would have to return an indictment in the US system. I don't think they ever got to that point. In the, I guess, in this case. But when they say charged, it just means that he was arrested and held on those charges. There was never like formal indictments filed in the way we would have, you know, a grand jury indictment in a federal district court here or a state superior court. There was never that. Is what I'm trying to. So I think there's some the crafting of the question behind an issue. It matters a lot. So this is the point I'm trying to make for the investigators and for the Crown Prosecution Service. The issue statement for them was, can we get enough evidence against Mason Greenwood to give us any hope of getting a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt? The way they answered that question, they said the answer was no. Right. Now, when Manchester United came back and said that we were going to conduct our own investigation, the presumption they gave the public was that they would be asking the same question, that their issue statement was going to be the same, which would presumably be that, well, can we find any evidence, right, that Mason Greenwood committed the act? That was not the question Manchester United answered based on the statement they released. The question Manchester United was asking was, what does she want? And the part of their statement, so they says, throughout this process, the welfare and the perspective of the alleged victim has been central to the. So it's not what is central to United's case is not whether Mason Greenwood committed the act. What is central to United's investigation is the welfare and the perspective of the alleged victim. How do you answer the question of the welfare and perspective of the alleged victim? Well, by speaking to the alleged victim, right? And you talk to the alleged victim and you ask, Miss, what do you want in this case? How do you feel? What are you feeling like? Do you want Mason to come back? And she's going to say yes. And that is a reflection of the bigger issue Linger and Aya were talking about, that victims will always go back. 9 times out of 10, they will go back. I used to be a public defender, and I had a lot of domestic violence cases. We didn't go to trial on those cases because they wouldn't come to court. They don't show up.
Hold on. Let me drop off. I think Linger might drop off soon, so I can bring in okay and Buchi.
Okay, I'm gonna bring in okay real quick.
I'll come back for the. I guess when you go to the other, I'll come back for that one.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna add you in 1 second. But the point I'm trying to make is victims will always in most cases they will come back and they will say the right things, and they will make it look like things are okay. Now, at what point do we draw the line between interfering in somebody's private life? They have a child with this person, they're engaged to be married. At what point do we draw the line between respecting that privacy versus, are you really okay? Can we really listen to you? Can we really trust what you say? So, and I think Manchester United they succeeded in narrowing the issue to the wrong question. I think they were answering the wrong question, and they deceived the public by making us think that they were going to answer the question of whether Mason did it. Okay, welcome. Tell us what your opinion is. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Good day wherever you are. I think in this Greenwood issue, I think I honestly I wanted to see the outcome of the case before commenting on it. And now that the CPS charges have been dropped, I wanted to just say I think we have to be careful, and I think there's two schools of thought here. We have to be able to. We have to either say we're going to let the court of law decide, and that should be where the standard is held, or the court of public opinion. I'm not saying that Greenwood is innocent. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't there. We weren't there. But it looks bad. It looks very, very, very bad. And I will say probably if someone had to say, okay, is Greenwood innocent? I'll say probably not. But what I will say is this also, and we have to be careful, is that everybody has a right. Everybody. I'm an advocate that when people come out of prison, they should be reintegrated into society and be allowed to work.
Yeah.
If we are now saying that, you know what, because somebody who has not been found guilty, right, is then not allowed to pursue their chosen profession because of public outcry, then where does it end? Because then, if that's the case, I work for a small fintech company. Because people then say, you know what, somebody who has committed a crime can't come and work for the company I work in. Then if someone then says, because the thing is that people will not be happy, right, unless Greenwood is working in Costco. Then it's then going to be like, well, that's fine. So let me then ask you a question. Why is it? Why would it be okay for Greenwood to be shunned by the football community, but then we now see him doing trolley service at Costco? Everyone will be like, well, that's right. So why is it okay to work at Costco, but not to work at Manchester United? Which kind of makes me think that the issue why a lot of people don't want Greenwood playing football again, because he's not just playing for Man United, he's playing for football again. Yeah. He's got the money he's earning. And that's basically it. It is the money. Because if Greenwood's earning $10 an hour, pushing the cart at Costco, no bad would care. No one would care.
Let me answer that question. Okay, let me answer that question.
Can I actually jump in? To go. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just to add, I hear what you're saying. Just to add a third court, though, it's like, I don't think for me, it's like, should he play at United or play at Costco? It's more like, should he come back to United specifically? Because you're talking about the legal court, the court of public opinion, and then also just his employer. Like, I teach high school. If I did some shit and they fired me or whatever, and maybe I didn't do it or whatever, they're not obligated to bring me back if it was something that became public. Like, if people were really invested in the lives of Costco workers and he did all this stuff and it was everywhere and everyone has opinions at this Costco, that Costco doesn't obligated to bring him back. It's not just like,
no, but the way people are
public
talking,
opinion.
But the way people are talking is okay. So let me ask you a question: if you don't believe he should come back for United, at which level of football should he come back?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Linga.
I mean, I don't know if I think it as clearly as like he can come back, but to the Championship or to the Dutch League. I just think all this stuff happened when he was an employee of Manchester United. And if I was them, I would not bring him back because all of the fans will not care about football. We'll sit around talking about this for hours every day, right? I just wouldn't want to take that on as an employer outside of like, did he do it or not? And like, did he do it or not? It feels so futile in this. Yes, he did. We heard it, right? Like, no one said it was AI or anything like that. But like, I agree that like things shouldn't be tried by a court of public opinion, but that doesn't mean that like just a private employer should do what they think is best for their group, and that's why I actually don't think it's best for United to bring back this player.
But then that's where it has to be left at. Then, if people are saying United have to do what United want to do because United are a private company, then United they should be allowed to do what they want to do because they're a private company. And then because the United fans, the ones who are saying like Rachel Riley and so on, who are saying they're going to stop being United fans if they bring Greenwood back, can either like it or lump it. And the whole kind of like, and that's just what it all boils down to, because the way I know that you're not talking this way, but the way fans are talking is that, they don't want him back for United. But that's the thing, nobody knows. And Simon Jordan said it quite well on TalkSport. When the bottle spins in that direction, what's their reaction gonna be like? And my thing is just kind of like, well, for me as a black man, we're all black people here. We know in America how the disparity of black people being jailed, and we know that the prison system in America is not really meant for reform, right? And that's something that I think that it should be meant for. It should be meant for rehabilitation and reform, so that whether you've committed murder, rape, arson, or speeding, after you've served your appropriate sentence, you should be able to be rehabilitated back into society and be a contributing member of society. And the way people are talking is kind of like Greenwood should never play football again. And to me, it just strikes a bit of like of jealousy. That's just my thing.
Well, I just feel a little bit differently about like I've been saying on this pod. I want him to get help and stuff, but I think and to play football or whatever. But my question is just about accountability. Like, I don't think I don't really believe that much in prison because I think the system itself is very flawed. But like, what is the accountability if he just comes back to Manchester United? Because I'd like to just know, and I'm not saying it has to be this or it has to be that, but if he just comes back and keeps playing, and if people don't like it, they can just lump it. Like, I still think that's a good look for like a really famous club. Like, I think it's just more complicated.
And I get that.
I also have to go. I'll listen and send my thoughts in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linga.
Go, call me.
Yeah. I want us to actually move the conversation along to football stuff, but I wanna address what you said. Okay, and Raj, you also feel free to chime in. But so why not that Manchester United? And this is why. Okay, I think. Oh, we also have Zaza here. Hey, Bucci, we're gonna go to you shortly. Just 1 second, okay? But okay,
you guys have had me waiting for 20 minutes here. I've been sitting down and waiting here for 20 minutes.
Sorry about that, bro. A lot. This is an interesting part. The people want to talk. So okay, my point is the question Manchester United has to answer again is not whether does he want to come back, does his child's mother want him to come back, I don't think that's the question they should be asking. The question should be, is this good for the club? That is the question. And the answer to that, if we're being honest, is no. Why is it no? Well, Manchester United has, we have history in this, whether or not the past players that have been in similar situations, whether or not they did it, we have history. Cristiano Ronaldo, again, whether or not he did it, we don't know, but the history is there. Ryan Giggs, whether or not he did it, we don't know, but the history is there. Mason Greenwood, and look, go down to our neighbors too with Ben Mendy, right? Ben Mendy got acquitted of all charges.
Joel, I have to come in here because you're going to a part that I have to stop. There's something you guys are doing that you're bringing in Giggs' name. Giggs went to trial and was acquitted.
Yeah,
he was found innocent in court. It wasn't a case that was allegations. He went to court. Giggs' issue, the only issue that Giggs has is a moral issue, which was sleeping with his brother's wife. The issue about the girlfriend or whatever went to court. It was tried.
I think it was a hung jury. I don't think it was a acquittal. I think it was a hung jury, wasn't it?
It was a hung jury means he wasn't found guilty.
Yeah.
If it's a hung jury, he walks.
Yeah. He walks. Yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to say is
But a hung jury doesn't also mean he was not guilty.
Exactly.
A hung jury means that they weren't able to come to a conclusive decision
Okay,
within the
listen.
room.
As far as we know, legally, you have to be found guilty to be guilty. The law is
Not
innocent until
necessarily.
proven. No. You have
Not
to be found.
necessarily.
No. It's straightforward. It's not
I
an
think.
argument.
I
No.
I want to say.
You
I
have
want
to
to
be
say something
found
real quick.
guilty to be guilty. I didn't
But
say you have
you're
to be
talking
found
about
innocent to be
legal.
innocent.
You're talking about
I
legal.
said the law, Raji. I said the
Okay.
law. That's what I said. I
Alright.
said in the law,
Alright.
you have to be found guilty to be guilty. So let's leave that part. And then the reason why I'm mentioning this is there's this thing where people are going where we haven't seen all the evidence. We saw a bit of the evidence. As far as my personal my personal thoughts on the evidence I saw is Greenwood is guilty. The question now about is it good for the club? Is it good for him? It's all about perspectives. And if we bring 1,000 people here, we're going to have different perspectives. And we can try as much as we can to twist it left and right. There's a duty to women. There's also a duty to young men. There's also a duty to young women. There's also a general duty to society. Because we start digging deeper. A lot of young men have gone through court and didn't get the chance Greenwood got because they didn't have good lawyers. A lot of the Mendy case, for example, Mendy was not guilty. We saw the evidence, and we could see the evidence where it was more like the prosecution were after him because the people they brought out, the witnesses were destroyed on the stand.
Bucci, my point. The point I was trying to make is this: Mendy was found not guilty, right?
Yes.
But Manchester City still were like, nah, we're not bringing you back.
No,
Why?
his contract finished.
That is. Hold on. But the point I'm trying to make is Manchester City, regardless of the verdict that found him not guilty, they decided this is not a good look for our club. But he plays at Lorient right now in France. He's in Ligue 1, and his career is not completely shot. He's still playing football. Okay. But my point is what made Manchester United look at this whole thing, right, and say it is good for our club for us to bring it.
Okay, now let me make my main point. You brought in Mendy, the difference between Mendy and Greenwood, which is why I said it's all a matter of perspective. I don't want to be in a position of defending Greenwood, and I'm not trying to defend him. Neither am I trying to defend Manchester United. But when we talk about empathy and all of this, we have to understand that empathy is dependent on the person and the situation. There are people that would see somebody hungry and go begging on the street, and they will go, whatever, go get a job. And there are people that will be like, no one should be hungry on the street. Empathy is dependent on the person and the situation. Mendy, his contract was expiring. Mendy is not Foden. He's not Haaland. He's not somebody that Man City brought up as a child that he can just walk away from. Greenwood has a long community in that club. Someone here mentioned, Manchester United cut off Tuanzebe, cut off all these guys. After how many years? Tuanzebe was in Manchester United for so long. They kept giving him chance after chance after chance. They renewed his contract even when he was injured. So football clubs are very, very, yes, they can be very, very cutthroat, but they also can be very, very caring, especially to people that they brought up from the academies. We've seen this over and over again. We've seen clubs rehabilitate people that were injured. Just keep them. So, but this is not a case of someone that is injured. This is a very nasty case. The problem we have is that, unfortunately, it is not one of those cases where you can say if they make this decision, they're 100% wrong. If they make this decision, they're 100% right. Manchester United has a case. To me, it'll sack Greenwood immediately. They have a case without a doubt. And Greenwood would have much to argue. They can sack him for bringing the club into disrepute. They have many things to do. Yeah. But at the same time, they can also go, we've known this boy since he was 9 years old. If we sack this boy and then tomorrow he shoots himself, what happens? We raise this kid. So it's the same thing where sometimes, like, how do fathers of convicted murderers, how do they react? How do they act? Because sometimes clubs they also play father roles. They raise kids. It's the same way where schools, where you see coaches, for example, go and pick kids up that are troubled and raise them and bring them back. We like to celebrate second chances. We like to celebrate people that come back in life. But the problem is that many times when people are about to be given a second chance, we also rush in and have this mob mentality. Sometimes let things play out. Manchester United make a decision, we react to the decision. If they sack Greenwood, I'm fine with it. If they keep him, I wouldn't say I'm 100% fine with it, but I understand it. The thing that happens is what happens next. I've had people go, Greenwood hasn't had a chance to take ownership of his mistakes. When did he get the chance? Is Greenwood supposed to come out when he was being charged to say, "Oh, I committed the crime"? He's going to jail. If he confessed to his woman and told her sorry, she's not going to tell you. There's a legal jeopardy in that. Even if he comes out and gives an interview, he will not admit. He will say, "I did many mistakes."
I'll be shocked if his lawyers even advise him to.
Yeah, he will run away from it. Yeah. The thing that what happens in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, like what happens in the future, he would vindicate or sell the decision. But to wake up and go, there has to be this decision or this or that. The way the club has handled the whole situation is terrible, which is not surprising given it's Manchester United. But we as fans and we as public, we need to stop this mob mentality.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people commit crimes and get away with it and then become different people. And yes, some people keep going back to the crimes. Some people go, no, but look at all the good they've done after this crime. For example, Ray Lewis, the NFL guy who had that murder thing. And then after that murder, Ray Lewis became a big icon in Baltimore, not for the football, but what he did off the pitch. It was that thing spurred him on. Now, I'm not saying that absolves him of that, but just to bring a religious perspective into it, I'm a Catholic. We believe in my religion that you have to atone for your crimes, but everything is forgivable. You can spend the rest of your life making up for what you did, even murder. So in this case, we need to be very careful.
Yeah.
Regarding pushing all of that. Okay, go ahead.
I want to move the conversation on to the football or so-called football Manchester United played yesterday. But let me take some quick comments. No. Okay, so Prince White says, I don't like your Kwame smiling. Your smile is pissing me off. Raji Frame. The last time I came online, Kwame left me to rot in the background. Yeah. Prince White, that's because you're an Arsenal fan. Says on Mason, I don't know about you, but I hope that either all of us or none of us are judged by the actions of our weakest moments, but rather by the strength. Prince White, we show when, and if we're ever given a second chance, I hope he can somehow learn from this and kick on with life. Linger says, if they keep him, I just don't want their fans / his defenders acting like everything he did was fine now, and
I think nobody
accountability.
Nobody says that what he did was fine. I don't think anybody can say what he did was fine. No,
I think they should fire him. The negativity is too much. But
Linger says, guys, come on. I feel like saying this is just a mob mentality thing erases the pain people felt of actually hearing this violence happen. I think it's a little more than, I think a lot more than mob mentality thing, because and what the kicker for a lot of people is the fact that we lived it, we heard things, we saw pictures. With other cases, we didn't see anything. But I want to talk about the Manchester United game yesterday. Ayo, if you want to jump on and contribute a little bit, you feel free to do so. Raju, you're the only outsider here. You're the only non-United fan here. Okay, Bucci, myself, Ayo, we're all United fans.
Okay, I'm gonna say 3 things quickly about Man United so I can move out and watch from outside.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Quickly, Manchester United have three problems. That's why I said three things. One is it's the players. There seems to be this mentality thing. Raji was saying earlier. Oh, sorry, that was the guy that jumped on first. Forgot his
Henry.
name. Henry. Henry was saying earlier that their levels dropped after preseason. There's this mentality thing this team has had for years, and where adversity seems to make them go down. Manchester United were played a better team against Spurs yesterday, and instead of missing chances, they were missing. I mean, they should have been ahead by the first half, and then immediately Spurs scored. They just started playing poorly. They started playing long balls. They were launching balls for Pelestri to win in the box. So there's this thing where they don't stand up, and they have the worst captain in the world to me when it comes to being a captain. Not a player, but a captain in the sense that this guy is a whiner. He's a guy that he missed a chance and came off at halftime. I was complaining about something instead of saying, "Oh my God, he missed a golden chance." He should have been saying, "Oh my God, it's me," but he was busy pointing to somebody and complaining. That kind of me. I don't make mistakes kind of guy should not be a captain.
Yep.
Two, there's a bigger problem with the club. I look at Newcastle, for example. I mean, Raji, you're going to be surprised to say this, but your club is going to do well. I think your club might struggle a bit with the workload, but they will do well. They will be in the top four. Might not be able to go far in the Champions League. Might do, but they're a club that will do well now and in the future because some of the moves Newcastle made were moves that what you call tried and tested moves. They brought in guys from a system they wanted to copy. They brought in a director of football from I forgot the club he came in from. The guy started making good moves. The people that are running the club are not trying to just throw money at the problem to solve it, which is what Chelsea is doing, and I think will backfire because you can't buy everything. It's like throwing mud at the wall and hoping something will stick. That's what Chelsea is doing. Manchester United, on the other hand, have not. I don't think they've had a good buy. What I mean, a good big money buy in years. You can go back and look. When was the last time Manchester United made for the period a big money transfer that worked at? You would say Van Nistelrooy, maybe Van Persie, but Van Persie was such a short term buy, so you wouldn't even call it one that really worked out. But at least they won the league. You would have to go back to Van Nistelrooy. All the big money buys compared to the period, not the cost of money, but the relative cost, have been poor buys. Maguire, Sancho, Anthony. So maybe this club should learn to stop buying big money buys and start buying 50 million, 20 million, 30 million, and just build a squad. Why is this? Because you can then sell them and lose little money and buy again, as opposed to buying guys that we're putting all in, we're going all in. The backroom, everything around the club, the ownership, everything is just terrible. That is one aspect of it. But the final aspect I want to talk about quickly regarding Manchester United is Manchester United have a coach that it's beginning to look like does not understand the Premier League, or is not ready for it, or is just too stubborn and stuck in his ways. Last season he showed some pragmatism, but I thought he would have learned from that experience last season and come out and try and build a squad that is physical, wants to be, first of all, stop your opponents from scoring, control the game if with or without the ball, then play with the ball. But now this man goes, he wants to play transition. Transition technically means, 100% of the time your team is running. 100% of the time your team is running. Why is this bad? You technically have a 30-something-year-old defensive midfielder, and you want him to keep covering so much of the field. That means this guy is going to get burnt out. You want Mason Mount to get to the box and come back every time. You want to keep, you just basically it's boom, launch. Yeah, it's looking like Ten Hag needs to, one, stop being stubborn, and two, play like other Premier League managers or other managers, build a solid midfield, which also comes back to, and the other thing about it is also like you've spent a year at the club, you've had a scoring problem, and then you go and buy one striker. Manchester United should not be buying one striker. Manchester United should be buying two. You need one striker, and in some cases when you can bring in two, and then one is on the bench. You can't go with it has to be one system, one formation. You are not that good enough yet. You are not a Man City yet. And even Man City have pragmatism. Man City have different strikers, different people who can play different roles. Like Alvarez can play 9, he can drop to 10. This guy can be rested. Manchester United does not have little things. Look at Newcastle, for example. Newcastle have Wilson, they have Isaac. Just Arsenal have Nketiah, they have Jesus, different forms, types of strikers. If you just start looking at the profile of players, this guy has arranged around him. What is he building? Because I don't see too much variation in the players. I don't see too much variation in style of play, apart from launch long balls, try and catch them on counter and start crossing. You're crossing the ball a lot of times when you don't have a big striker in the box. So I'm beginning to look at Ten Hag and go, dude, guys have been here in a short while and built teams because of pragmatism. Emery, De Zerbi. So please, it's not. I don't think it works. That's just what I say about him. But I'm gonna get off now. So
okay,
you guys can talk. I'll be listening.
Thank you, bro. Talk to you later.
Okay.
All right, fine. Okay. Linger is going ham in these comments. She says, Raju, let him have it. United are trash. Just walked past a United fan on the street and laughed loudly. Man, Linger is out here wilding. I should have passed the pod though. And the jacuzzi suck. Ten Hag and your jacuzzis are on fraud watch. Okay, Raju, let us have it. Did you watch the game yesterday? What do you think?
I did. Okay, so I think that I listened to a lot of the points that Zaza was making. I do think that he contradicted himself quite a few times. I also think that some of the things that he was saying, you would say is not typical. It's not, I wouldn't say, for example, you mentioned that Manchester United is playing long ball. Let me tell you one team that is playing long ball right now, and that's Manchester City. Manchester City is playing long ball and they're finding success. Long ball is not the issue, right? The issue about mentality is poor. After they missed a goal, they all went their mindset went down. That's not the issue. Manchester United played very well yesterday. They couldn't break Spurs down, mostly because Manchester United was very predictable. And that's it. It's the same issue they had against Wolves. I watched that whole Wolves game, and any Manchester United fan that goes in thinking that they play better than Wolves is wrong. All right, Wolves play better than Manchester United. They could see the triangles. They could break down Manchester United very easily, and Manchester United scored a goal out of luck. Any team that is a little bit, Wolves could have scored 2 or 3 goals if they had a better striker.
Mm-hmm.
Manchester
in the first half only, actually.
Yeah. I think that the issue that Manchester United had, and one of the reasons why I keep tramping on Erik ten Hag, is that he plays very predictable football. And Manchester United has the quality in their team where, despite the fact that it can be predictable, they could have Bruno Fernandes just push the ball forward and score the goal. And all of a sudden, all of those issues get alleviated. So Manchester United is not going to struggle against teams that have like rigidity. They won't struggle against those teams because they can break them down. Bruno Fernandes can do one kick, and all of a sudden, everything they'll just get an open chance and they'll score. But the thing about it is, teams that have dynamism in their play, they're going to struggle because of the rigidity that they have. And it can be overcome by the quality. I don't think the argument about age of players is necessarily a bad thing. I think that you can sign older players, and Messi's moved to PSG, Messi moved to MLS. It's the context of the player that you want. Does the player solve the problem you need? I don't worry about the age, but I also think that the point you made about the big money buys, all Manchester United does is buy big players. So I don't think that is necessarily the issue. And if you now come to a situation when Manchester United is buying 50 million players and they're selling them for 100, how do you differentiate yourself from Brighton? Manchester United should be a destination club, not a selling club. So you creating contradictions in your arguments, where the real problem is the fact that the squad is very predictable. Whatever they do, everybody knows how Manchester United plays. When Wolves were playing them, all they had to do was block all the players and make sure they pass the ball to Wan-Bissaka, and then they just tackle Wan-Bissaka, and there's nobody to pass the ball to. So that everybody knows that's what Manchester United does, and they're not doing anything to stop them from predicting them. So,
yeah.
And I will say one thing too. You can't use Newcastle to butter me up. I will still say what I have to say. So you can say all you want about Newcastle. Let
me just jump in because I got to jump off.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead.
I think I've got quite a bit to say about United, and I honestly have realized I watched preseason. Well, I watched quite a few minutes of the preseason games, and I wasn't impressed in preseason. The only player that really impressed me in preseason was Kobe Minu. That was the only player that I thought, you know what? Okay, have a gem here. Ten Hag last season, I saw some warning signs. I said Ten Hag doesn't really get the Premier League. The Liverpool game, the City game, he doesn't seem to understand that the profile of player you buy in the Premier League is not the Dutch league, it's not the German league where he's worked in both leagues. Premier League is a super league. Arsenal have a £50 million right back in Ben White. Every top team has that equivalent player. You can't go and buy an Anthony who cannot beat a man, who doesn't have pace for 80-something million pounds. And that is and you're now saying, well, this is where the team it's almost like Ten Hag. Ten Hag to me is a bit like, coaching wise, Louis van Gaal. Van Gaal had his philosophy, and Van Gaal felt that his coaching was going to be enough to beat the teams in the Premier League. Van Gaal felt his mind was superior enough, in my opinion. Van Gaal felt his mind was superior enough that he will go out there, he'll tell the players where to play, and maybe 25% players, 75% of tactics was enough. And Ten Hag found out it wasn't enough. The difference is Ten Hag was in his 60s, and Van Gaal was in his 60s, and Ten Hag is quite some years younger. So he should be more adaptable. The Mason Mount signing. Ayo, I'm looking at you because you saw me on Mason Mount.
He's a good player. I'm still saying that.
No, Mason Mount came to here was the first warning sign. When Mason Mount took the number 7 shirt at United, Mason Mount thinks he's made it as a superstar.
Man is a David Beckham wannabe. That's what he is.
He thinks he's made it. And Mason Mount, right, had a good year or two at Chelsea. Yeah, I didn't watch him closely, but from what someone
he had one good year, bro. He had one good year, bro.
But from what someone on this podcast loudly tells me, Mason Mount, you know, and I've seen Mason Mount, and I've seen enough to say, you know what, he's a good player. I'm not saying he's a rubbish player. Don't get me wrong. No, you don't play the Premier League unless you're a good player. But
Titus Bramble was a good player.
Eriksen,
he played in the Premier League.
He was a good player. He was a good player. That's the thing. Eriksen did more.
And Harry Maguire too, right?
And Harry Maguire plays in the Premier League too.
Don't get me wrong. Listen. I think we have to realize. Okay, just before I'll just veer off a little bit. I saw this Twitter thread about people who played high school against players who went on to be professionals, and even in high school they said the difference in quality was they decided to go and hit those books because they weren't going to become professionals. Yeah. So we need to realize that if you see Harry Maguire or Titus Bramble playing at your local YMCA, they're going to be faster than you, stronger than you. They're going to move at a different speed.
Yeah.
So let's just. But I'm just saying, Mason Mount is a good player, but a United player,
no.
And Ten Hag seems to have put these baskets of Anthony, of Mason Mount.
Just remember when I come back on these clips,
guys, let me take comments. Ayo, you're gonna go next. Let me take comments from Prince AY. Prince AY goes, the problem with United is simple: imposter syndrome. Something is not right with the system/players. Fitting round pegs and square holes. Jokes aside, can anyone actually tell me what system United plays in? I really want to know. The press is disjointed, if there's any. The transition football is questionable. Onana is always screaming. I think he's trying to do everything all at once. Using Arsenal as a template, even Newcastle, you rebuild the team from the defense. Teta and how
that I have to, because I think Arsenal fans.
Let me finish reading.
I have to respond to that.
100%. Yeah, Teta and how started from the back, change the goalie first, then defense, then midfield before attack. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then Lingard goes, you should have used the money to buy Slabhead out of contract and nail him to. Okay, all right, go ahead, Ayo. Go ahead.
Let me look into the camera and talk to Arsenal fans, right? I think because they forget, but I never forget. You know me, I'm a purist. I remember everything. Let me tell them very clearly. Arteta finished 8th twice.
Yes.
And 5th. All of you wanted him out.
All of them, yeah.
Did you know he was doing the rebuild good in second year? I remember Arsenal fans complaining. They would message me, all this man does is cross. Do you remember that? And this leads me to my own point. I just wanted to that was just me. I'm not going to rant because I don't rant, but it's voice of reason. I'm always the voice of reason. I think I've changed the voice of reason. Guys, I'll talk about it from 3 perspectives. 3 things, right? A manager is not a magician. I always try to remind people this thing every time. A manager is not a magician. Let me land. Okay, I let you talk. A manager cannot turn water to wine, right? So I'll put that caveat there first of all. So misprofiling, that's the first issue United has, right? And I think Raji was kind of trying to say, Bucci talked already different. So I'm going to go deeper. United have a misprofiling problem. It's gone on before Ten Hag, before Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, before Mourinho. We have a misprofiling problem. United are telling us, at least this season, they are doing joint recruitment. Manager versus club recruitment. That's what they are doing. That's what they are telling us they're doing, right? But this is what United are doing with Ten Hag. 90% of their transfers, they are telling the manager to point to the player he wants. That's what's happening. A manager is not a scout. I was arguing with the Chelsea fan. I was like, oh, Lampard, at least one thing Lampard has is a good scout. No manager is a good scout. I like to let you know this thing. Their job is not to watch 10,000 of minutes.
They don't travel. They don't watch players.
Their job is to coach a team. They might know a player and say, oh, or somebody might inform them. Like Fergie had people that used to call Fergie back in this. Oh, there's this player. They go and watch. Managers are not scouts. And that's the problem United are dealing with. United are asking managers to say, oh, they've told Ten Hag. So Ten Hag is literally just pointing players out. Okay, give me Martinez. Give me Anthony. Give me XY. That's what's happening at United. Of course, there's some case where the club are signing players that are available. Casemiro is available. Why won't you sign him? It's Casemiro, right? Højlund, they say it's their signing mostly because Ten Hag wanted Kane. Athletic reported that. Yes, Athletic reported that. Ten Hag mostly wanted Kane. They said nah, and they convinced Ten Hag of Højlund. So they are doing joint recruitment. The problem I think is happening is based on what the manager wants to do. There's a miscommunication. There's something that's happening regarding who they're identifying. Anthony goes to Anthony. Anthony is a big boss because that was a manager signing, clearly. And Anthony is trending to be a big boss. That's a big problem because as a manager, you cannot have too many boss in your big money signings. So I think misprofiling is the main problem with United. That's number one. Number two, coaching. It's basic coaching error. Please play your players in their best position, Ten Hag, please. Do not play Rashford as a 10. We knew Rashford was not a 9.
Don't put Bruno on the wing.
Worked last season in some games, but like Raji, I'm going to connect everybody's start because everybody has said some truth. Okay, Raji, but everybody has sourced us out. Everybody knows United is playing 4-1-4-1. It's clear. That's what we're trying to do. And what they were doing last season in a simplified version is this. We'll try to play slowly out of the back. We'll draw teams in and hit them on transition. People know that Rashford is the threat. Everybody knows. Now, what he's not trying to do, I think from end of last season, he's trying to supercharge the attack. Meaning he's crashing the box with pretty much 5 players. So Bruno and Mount are trying to crash the box at the same time. The problem with that is very simple. Once you lose the ball, the transition is crazy because Casemiro is covering the whole space and sometimes Wan-Bissaka talks in. That's why he's letting our right winger talking, to help to cover the space when we lose the ball. But people think everybody's noticing that's what the problem is. Number two, I think the counter press is breaking up. It's breaking down. For some reason, this season, our counter press is breaking down ridiculously. You see, join our chat, you see I always complain about it. I'm seeing it. It's breaking down. Last season, it was very effective in some games. This season is less effective, right? And I think the last part, I'm tying all this to coaching. The last part is fitness. I think this team, there's some issue. And this is just my speculation, right? Whether it's like we have to travel around the world to play all these games, whatever it is, there's some fitness issue going on. And to improve over time. So that's why I'm telling everybody to calm down. But Ten Hag has to fix the basic errors. Stop playing Rashford as a striker. Stop starting Garnacho. He's an impact guy. Anthony probably needs to be benched. He's not impacting anything. He's not. And he needs to react to the fact that everybody and their dog knows that United is trying to play 4-1-4-1. He needs to react to that. Because now everybody knows what we're trying to do. You need to react to that and find a different solution. Those are my thoughts. Very simple.
Right. Well, I'm not gonna go into my own thoughts. I mean, it's right on the match reaction. Everybody knows how crazy I went. But I'm just gonna say that man is still on my fraud watch list. Yeah, he's on fraud watch for me. Okay, Raji, quickly tell us kudos.
I'm going to drop off now. I'm going to drop off.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, appreciate it, bro. Raji, kudos and donkey of the week. Who are you giving kudos to?
I would say the Spanish team.
The women's team?
Spanish World Cup team, yes.
Yeah.
I think that it's a momentous thing. I think that they've achieved something incredible. But I also feel a little bit happy that the English team didn't win, given the way they played against the Nigerian team. I think that there's a little bit of poetic justice in that. For the donkey of the week, I don't generally have one at this time.
Okay.
I think that this was a good week, so I'm not thinking about negatives.
Cool. Ayo, you care to tell us who your donkey is?
It's Richard Arnold. Richard Arnold.
Oh, okay.
Motor, Ten Hag for the Mason Greenwood thing, not because of the football. I don't really care. I think we'll be fine eventually. But yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, my donkey is Ten Hag, like just point blank period. I don't have kudos. I really.
You have a kudos?
Nah. I don't have kudos. Linger says kudos of the week has to be Brighton FC.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They're raking in the money for selling their players and still beasting on the pitch. That is true. As De Zerbi said, they can buy their players, but they cannot buy our soul and our heart.
So De Zerbi and Brighton is my kudos.
Man like De Zerbi, yeah, that's true. That's true, I guess. Anyway,
he's been coached for just 1.5 years, and all of a sudden he's talking about soul. Guys, man.
If he gets poached, I'm predicting that. I think next year they'll poach him. Somebody
really?
De Zerbi? Somebody money. Yeah, I'm poaching. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. You know that one big club is going to implode.
Yeah,
that is true. That is true. One big club is going to implode.
One big club will implode this season, and that's true. To find their manager and go and get De Zerbi.
That's true.
I feel like Chelsea may not. I think that they're gonna be in trouble with their coach.
Oh, really?
Because
wait. Just how long are you going to poach? Just quickly.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't see. It depends on how the next few games. I mean, you can't really judge much from the first two games. Yeah. What you can judge is the system, and you can speculate on how the system they're playing works in the long term. That's all you can say.
Yeah.
I saw the Chelsea match today, and I saw the Chelsea match against Liverpool. I think that there are some problems that Chelsea are going to face this season. There's been a lot of high hopes for this season, but I feel like in a situation where everybody has high expectations and the coach doesn't meet it, I think it's going to be a situation where he could suffer the consequences of that. They spend a lot, almost $1 billion. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've sold too, but it's still a lot of money.
I think let me respond to Prince. I think he doesn't understand. I know we have to.
Yeah, Prince. Okay, so Prince goes, hey, I called them out, Jared, but not me. Yes, we finished 8th twice, but the projection was always there. I disagree with that. You also forget the fact that Arsenal is Arteta's first job. Eric, on the other hand, is an experienced manager. The frustration with Arteta initially is the fact that he is learning on the job. The frustration is understandable.
So I get the point. Let me explain my point to say why. There's no way you could have known Arteta was going to be this good if they were not patient with him to do all the bad work, all the bad transfers, and unlearn it. So this idea that Arsenal should be the template. If Arsenal is template, then why are you complaining now? Why not you wait for 3 more years before you complain about Eric Ten Hag? That's all I'm saying. Eric Ten Hag got top 4 in his first season. So
if they saw the template, why did they want him out after the second season?
Correct. So that Arsenal template thing, please let Arsenal fans feel right. He's doing a good job. I know he's a good manager. I was one of you that backed him early on, but stop this. Let's stop this Arsenal is template thing. Arsenal is not a template. Let's stop it. Let's just stop.
I agree with that. Arsenal is not a template. Just for all the Arsenal fans there, you're not.
I mean, they're a template for not winning Champions League. So
they locked out on a lot of things. Let's just be clear. They locked out on Saka making that jump and Martinelli. They're like, let's just stop this. If I've said this many times, people always think I'm beefing, but it's the truth. If COVID did not happen, Arteta would have been fired. That run from 9 lost out of 10 or whatever that is, they would have
11 games, 11 losses in a row.
Let's just stop this. Arsenal is template. There's no Arsenal is not the template, so let's stop that.
Arsenal fans they're loud noisemakers. Anyway,
okay, all right, guys. Well, thank you for another interesting podcast. We will be back next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and hopefully you guys can join us then. In the meantime, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. On YouTube, we're at Footy Fantasy. Twitter, we are at Footy AD Fantasy, and Instagram, we're on Fantasy Footy. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we are out of here. Peace, guys.